So you say there's a new Halloween movie out. Somebody said that something about they still make Halloween movies. I don't know. So this is a super late review. I saw this movie first show I could, opening day. I actually saw this movie on the biggest IMAX screen I've ever seen in laser projection, so that there would be no spoilers. I didn't even watch the. This is Halloween Ends, by the way. I didn't even watch the trailer for this movie. The trailer came up in the theater, and I did the la 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 thing. I didn't watch the trailer. I like to be surprised by a film, and this, which had been built up, at least in the minds of the people who enjoy these films or are wanting to get to the end of this new trilogy, it was built up to be this final showdown between Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, the iconic horror villain. So I'll give you a little bit of up to speed if you don't know what I'm talking about here. In 1978, John Carpenter made a film called Halloween. Iconic horror film. Endless sequels followed. Somewhere, in 1998, they made a sequel called Halloween H2O. Halloween is the British release title. Halloween H2O. Jamie Lee Curtis came back. She reprised her Laurie Strode character, and that was the first time a sequel to a Halloween movie said, remember all those other sequels? Screw those. They don't exist. This is the second movie in the franchise. So basically, Halloween H2O said nothing except the original movie happened. Laurie Strode and Michael Myers meet up again, and it's a duel to the death. And then they made another one, which was terrible, Halloween Resurrection. And then Rob Zombie made a couple Halloween movies. And then David Gordon Green came back in 2018, and he made a movie entitled, confusingly, Halloween, in which it said this time, forget all those other sequels. There's the 1978 Halloween, and there's the 2018 Halloween. And what happens when Michael Myers breaks free again, not to give anything away, and Laurie Strode has to face him. And it was a pretty big hit. I enjoyed it for what it was. These David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy is very controversial in horror circles and in most movie circles, and especially in Halloween fan circles. But I thought they were fun. I thought Halloween 2018 was really well made, and follow-up Halloween Ends a lot of people didn't like, but I thought was fun. I saw 2018 and Halloween Kills, was the second film in the franchise, 2 years ago, I guess, or 2019, which, if you do the math, might have been 2 years ago. You don't come here for accuracy, you come here for opinion. So I was excited about Halloween Ends, let's just say that. I really liked the first two, despite the flaws. I saw the first two at least twice each in the theater. Really excited for Halloween Ends. So we go see it before anybody else can ruin it online. We see it in a huge screen. And side note, mainstream first-run films that are not shot to be in IMAX, the only real benefit you get from seeing them in IMAX is that it's a bigger screen. IMAX was really intended to be tall, more of a square image, super high resolution, things that were shot for IMAX. It's mostly, unfortunately, just used as a marketing ploy these days. Some films shoot scenes for IMAX, and you get a little bit on the extra on the top and the bottom, and the effect works better. But if you see just a normal movie on IMAX, you're paying a lot more just to see a movie a bit bigger. So we saw it in IMAX. I eventually will get to talking about this film 3 minutes in. Sometimes people do comment on YouTube. It took him 10 minutes to even talk about the movie. Sorry, it's not TV anymore, so I can really, unless you're watching this on TV, I can ramble as much as I want. And seriously, pay no attention to the dog that may be in deep distress outside. The dog maybe saw Halloween Ends. So anyway, I would say Halloween Ends, and I was very excited about it. And boy, did I not like it. This is not, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon. It's not an unpopular opinion on this movie, unfortunately. But what the first two movies in this trilogy tell you is that, oh boy, that third one is going to be the final showdown between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and oh my God, as insanely hyper uber violent and what a roller coaster ride the first two movies were. This third one is going to be insane. What can it be? Well, kind of a whole lot of nothing for a lot of the running time. It's well shot, I will say that. The actors in it are good, but it starts off with, and I'm not going to really get into the plot. Everybody's who wants to see it probably has already. It was theatrically and released theatrically and to Peacock at the same time. So people could watch it the day it came out on streaming on their home TV, which a lot of people feel like maybe they spent their time and money better doing it that way than paying to see it in the theater. The movie is kind of about a lot of things that you're not expecting. Some people really respect this movie because it does something different, and some people really are like, I would kind of like Michael Myers in my Michael Myers Halloween movie. So overall, the storyline is this. Laurie Strode has come to... Michael Myers has not been seen since the events of the 2018 Halloween. This movie takes place 4 years later. He's gone. The evil or the unpleasantness or the bad vibes he left behind and caused in this community reverberate. So the community is in a steep decline. Haddonfield, Illinois. There's nobody stalking and killing people anymore, but bad things continue to happen, and they blame it on the vibe of Michael Myers. You could have called this movie Halloween, The Vibe of Michael Myers. There's a young man named Corey who unfortunately causes a really bad thing to happen, and he becomes a pariah of the town. He becomes a social outcast. He pays the price for what he does, but everybody treats him like this evil person, this evil monster, and he's just like a nerdy, lonely kid. Laurie Strode's granddaughter has come to terms with all the bad things that have happened to her since the events of the 2018 movie, and it's just people trying to get by. And you get a lot of that in this movie. You get a lot of running time that is people who are unhappy and they're coping with their trauma and they're trying to get by. And a lot of us who are like, after how high octane intense the first two chapters of this series were, you're like, Michael Myers going to show up in this movie at all? Is there going to be killing in this movie? Not to be really crude or base, but you kind of go to a Halloween movie for a whole lot of killing going on and suspense and people getting away and people not getting away. And I'm watching the movie and I kept saying to myself, what is this? What am I watching? What is this? This is all about Laurie Strode being like a more traditional, loving grandmother with an edge, and Laurie's granddaughter getting by and trying to find her place in life, and this Corey kid, and then there's a relationship between her granddaughter and this Corey kid, and what is going on, and are we going to get the Halloween movie we thought we were getting? Eventually you do. Eventually you get something different. I'm not going to get into what it is, but early on in the movie, it reminded me of a controversial sequel to one of the other iconic slasher movies from the 80s, 90s. And I'm like, are they going to go this route with it? And the answer is, well, to me was yes. So I've rambled quite a bit in here, and I haven't really talked about this movie very much. So eventually there is what you go to a Halloween movie for. Eventually there is the gory murder and the creative killing and all that stuff. And eventually there is Michael Myers. But I got to say, there's very, very little Michael Myers. Now, I listened to a podcast about this the other day. This is such a big deal that people are recording hours of commentary, like you might think I'm about to do right now, about this movie. And somebody pointed out, because they watched it at home and they could do this, you don't see Michael Myers until at least 40 minutes into the film, and he has a total of 7 minutes of screen time. And yeah, I was alternately bored and confused and kind of eye-rolling at this movie. Certain things kind of go nowhere. Certain things are just really silly and cheesy. And I do admire the filmmakers for doing something different, but at this point, I don't know if something different is what so much of the audience wanted. And then there's always the question of, well, as an artist, do you make your films for the audience, or do you make it to tell a story and do what you want to do as an artist? And I think, unfortunately or unfortunately, if you're making a franchise movie for a studio that has a hardcore fan base, you probably should be making it more for the audience than for yourself. And again, I really like the first two. I feel like you could have taken this movie, and I'm sure somebody will do a fan edit, which are interesting. You could take maybe the last chunk of this movie, or you could edit this movie down to about 10 minutes, graft it onto the end of Halloween Kills, and you would have a much more satisfying 2-film cycle than this 3-film cycle. Now, apparently what this movie did was something that the director and Jamie Lee Curtis really wanted to do in terms of talking about how people in a community process grief and trauma and things like that, and that's noble and that's interesting, but it wasn't interesting to me in this movie. So Halloween does truly end in this movie, definitively. Is Michael Myers gone forever? Of course not. If there's money to be made, this will happen again. You'll take a new series of films, you'll take new films that take place between the films, you'll say, these films never happened. I don't really see, well, I definitively do not see Jamie Lee Curtis coming back for any of these, because I think it was a really good script and a good creative team that lured her back to do these at all in the first place, which is what had happened in 1998. I can't see her coming back 20 years from now to do another one. I don't think you necessarily need her in these movies. The Halloween series is somebody in that mask with that knife doing their thing. So anyway, I've rambled way too much about this movie. Halloween ends. Leave a comment or email me or whatever. What did you think of it? Because I have friends who saw this movie and they really liked it. I have some friends that liked it, and I have friends who literally said they couldn't sleep the night they saw this because they were so mad about it. So the ever divisive Halloween Ends in theaters and on Peacock now.